wanted to understand a little bit on non-ad valorem taxes.
Mhm.
I've discussed with a lot of local residents that garbage was a pretty important transition locally. Some moving from waste management to FCC,
Yeah, it was Waste Pro.
sorry, Waste Pro,
Yes.
and the issue I hear, and there's always got to be issues, that collection went from twice a week to once a week.
Yes.
So that sort of resonates with people that they would like frequency up. How does one start that process? Is it solely on FCC to take the onus and either raise rates and raise collections, or how does that work?
So let me take you back a little bit. So obviously when we had what we call in the city is trash-mageddon, right?
Yeah, right.
When COVID hit and Waste Pro was no longer providing the service that they were contractually obligated to provide. We tried to work with them. We worked with them on a regular basis in terms of our neighborhood services department, explaining to them how we were growing. They met with them on a regular basis, giving them the CO or certificate of occupancy
Yep.
reports every single couple weeks and every month to let them know, hey, these are the number of homes coming online. And unfortunately, with everything that happened with COVID, them not being able to provide the employees, them not planning properly to order the number of trucks,
Right.
obviously their services started to fail. So when they decided to cancel the contract and stop collecting garbage, and we had 6 weeks of garbage at the curb, we had to go out for an emergency bid in order to get a new garbage company within a 6-month period of time.
Wow.
Normally, when
It
this
doesn't sound that easy, by the way.
it's not it's very, very brutal. It is a very painstaking task on our staff. This to go out for a garbage contract or what's called a franchise agreement normally takes 12 to 18 months in order to accomplish.
Okay.
Our staff had to do it in 6 months time period.
Okay. So you had a quarter of the time.
So, right. So, what we did though was we wanted to make sure our residents were being heard. So, we developed what we called a solid waste task force. It was made up of all residents. Some of them were professionals in the industry. We had a former CEO of BP
Mm-hmm.
on the board as well, and look at the entire solid waste industry, do benchmarking, and come back to us with a recommendation and how we were going to move forward with a trash contract.
Mm-hmm.
When that benchmarking was done and knowing that Waste Pro had not increased their rates in 7 years, we knew going into it that our rates were going to go up quite considerably.
Right.
So it was,
Well, sounds like the rates were in line with their service, to be frank, right?
well, if
If
you
they
want
weren't doing a good job and they were
to, well, yeah, you could definitely put it that way. I've never
yeah.
thought of it that way before, but sure. Um, so knowing that it had been 7 years that we had before we had gone out for a contract, there's no way you're going to get the same service and the same um, paying the same amount of money for
Right.
something 7 years later that
Okay.
you had 7 years prior.
Right.
When does that happen in this world?
Does
In
not.
any capacity, it does not. So we knew the based on all the benchmarking and all the studying
Mm-hmm.
that we did that we're going to be paying higher. A lot of cities around the state of Florida do have once a week. Some still do have twice a week. But the idea was, how can we keep the cost down and not have it be so much of a different and exacerbated rate that our citizens would be so upset about. So the solid waste team came back, task force, and they recommended that we go to once a week garbage pickup with once a week yard waste, once a week recycling, which is what we had, the once a week with the yard waste and the once a week with the recycling,
Right.
and then go to monthly bulk. Because before
Monthly bulk. Okay.
we had bulk that it was free for all. You could just put anything out at the curb anytime and once a week they would come pick it up. Well, that was just not sustainable also because of the cost factor. So as a result, we went out to bid for the once a week,
Mhm.
with the once a month bulk and still the once a week yard waste and recycling.
Yeah. Were they a local provider to start? I would think the infrastructure, if it's not here locally, that's half the
You
battle.
mean the new
Well,
the
yeah,
new
I'm saying the
contractor?
company with trucks
Yeah.
and management and
Well, and it's important to note too that FCC was not. They had to purchase property out in the county for that. But Waste Pro, while they were local out in Fort Pierce,
yeah.
they just did not have the number of trucks necessary
Mhm.
and a number of employees because they weren't even servicing us
Wow.
per the contract. We were fining them every month for because it is in the contract. If you do not pick up, we will fine you. We suspended the fining, or our city manager suspended the fining initially in an effort to try to help them and give them grace to get back on track. And that never happened. So then when we had to go out to bid and Waste Pro canceled the contract, we went out to bid. And the idea was hopefully to get two companies and one to have each side of the city in case something ever happened like this again.
Well, you also get better service, right? I mean, just
Well, we were hoping that it would
yeah,
be that way.
right.
It never worked out that way.
Mhm.
Waste Pro could have rebid.
Okay.
Waste Management could have bid. They chose not to bid. They sent in a no bid letter. So we started out with 5 companies
Okay.
through the formalized request for proposal bid process that is regulated by the state.
Right.
We have to follow all rules.
Right.
Um, and also, council is in a cone of silence at that time. We are not allowed to talk to anybody who is bidding. That is a state law. We cannot get involved in that process whatsoever. We're When it's presented to us, that's when we can vote on it, but we cannot be involved in that process. So it has to go through the proper channels, through our city government procurement department and the committee who reviews the bids that come in through that bid process. It came down to 2 companies, FCC and Republic. Republic actually was more expensive than FCC,
Mhm.
so that is why FCC was chosen.
Gotcha.
And the other 2 companies, one fell out right away, and the other 2 companies, they could not provide the trucks in the time frame that we needed to um, make sure that garbage collection could start.
I'm just stressed out thinking about the story now.
Right?
So, yeah,
It was a really horrible time.
yeah,
We, especially me, I feel like I ate, slept, and breathed garbage for 2 years
right,
because it started with yard waste, then escalated.
right.
But so the citizens started talking, some residents started talking about going back to twice a week collection.
Yes.
Now, if you want more service, you're going to have to pay more, unfortunately.
Right.
That's how it works. So
Mhm.
on our citizen survey that we do every single year, we asked our residents, would you want to go back to twice a week, knowing that the estimated cost would be about another $131 a year?
A year.
A year. We asked this 2 years
$10 a
ago.
month.
Right.
Okay.
86% of the survey respondents said no.
Really?
It is still an issue where that gets brought up. So at our last council meeting, now prior, I had mentioned that I would be willing to put it on the ballot and do a referendum. Let our residents decide, right? Because there's some people who are totally fine with once a week.
Right.
I have 3 people in my household. I have a 96-gallon can.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with once a week.
Okay.
But a lot of people keep their garbage cans outside their home. They've complained of flies. Um, and they want the twice a week back. So at the time, I said, let's put it on the ballot. Well, it came up again last Monday, and the council voted to put it on the 2026 ballot. We're going to figure out what the new estimated cost will be because
Mhm.
it's definitely not going to be 131 anymore because
Right.
that was 2 years ago. But we're going to put on the November 2026 ballot a referendum asking residents if they want to go back to twice a week, and we're going to give the estimate of what the cost will be, and that number will be on the ballot as well.
Wow.
And we're going to let the citizens decide whether or not they want to do that.
Power to the people.
Power to the people, exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you for band-aiding the FCC. That does not sound like an easy solution, and they weren't even local. So
No, and they were able to. We were worried. They were able to get property in the county. They started service. They cleaned up Waste Pro's mess. And we have had not any problems with FCC. I mean, every once in a while you have an issue about a missed pickup or
right,
something, but our complaints are not heavy at all with regard to trash collection.
right.
They're pretty low.
Well, I
So,
guess if people really wanna leap out of their seat, then they'll have a chance to do it next year
yeah,
to increase the frequency.
absolutely. That's the opportunity.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, again, stressful, but a really great, hard-working, hard-nosed solution you put together. So